was your, I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Who was your first mentor?
My first mentor. Oh, that's a good question.
In the Eastern traditions.
Well, it was more in the religious tradition. It was Reverend John Fry. He worked with the Blackstone Rangers, which was became El Rukim in the I went there 1967 or 66, one or the other. 67, I think, actually. And the Reverend John Fry, who had been a Marine and then became an Episcopalian minister, he basically opened the church, which had been a white church, to the community and made an effort to win the trust of the Blackstone Rangers. And they put on musicals. They had I think it must have been Quincy Jones or somebody from Chicago, I think it was it Quincy Jones or somebody, some famous black musician who put on musicals and stuff. Anyway, they did some beautiful musicals. He did win the trust of the gang, but evidently it became clear later that, like the Black Panthers, his efforts were undermined by COINTELPRO. And
remind us what COINTELPRO was.
It was J. Edgar Hoover's project to illegally murder. Fred Hampton was murdered. This was Chicago. Fred Hampton was murdered. Mark Clark was murdered. Others that sort of inter-gang rivalries were stoked, so that the Blackstone Rangers, whose turf contrarians, who were the Democrats to the gangster disciple Republicans.
Turf contrarians.
Surf and turf contrarians, yes. And there were these gang wars, pretty dangerous gang wars, and people were getting killed every once in a while. Turns out that the FBI was stoking that all up as we later found from COINTELPRO, that not only for the Black Panthers, but for gangs like the Blackstone Rangers that were trying to go straight, or at least for a while were finding an outlet for gang members who basically aged out. And Jeff Ford, who later went to jail, I think, for the rest of his life for being head of the Blackstone Rangers. I met Jeff Ford. Powerful figures, these people. And they had their own rules and stuff. And Reverend John Fry, who was a white man, was able to win their trust because he was a trustworthy religious human being. I actually lived with him while I did research about the Woodlawn organization, which was TWO, which was something that Saul Alinsky and his Reveille for Radicals, TWO was one of his effective neighborhood organizations. I think probably also ultimately undermined by COINTELPRO and the powers that be.
This COINTELPRO is confusing because isn't the government out looking out for our best interests?
Absolutely. Our best interest as seen through the eyes of the Koch brothers.
Ah, I see.
and as seen through the eyes of Mayor Richard Daley at the time, and Marshall Korshak.
He brought people together, didn't he? Daley?
He was the great uniter. 1968, he was responsible for the great Democratic Convention that basically lost the election to Richard Nixon. And Henry the Kissinger, and who caused 9/11.
Henry Kissinger caused 9/11.
Yes, 9/11, 1973.
A different 9/11.
Same 9/11.
Please explain.
Well, Kissinger and Nixon undermined the democratically elected government of Chile that didn't vote the way the Nixon, COINTELPRO, Hoover-Reagan people wanted him to vote. And so he needed to be
Dethroned.
de-democratized. That they voted true, but they voted wrong, so it was nullified.
They voted true, but they voted wrong.
It was nullified.
And it wouldn't be the last time that the U.S.
And Pinochet, that great Democrat, then came to power.
It wouldn't be the first time the U.S. encouraged election results in different countries.
Very encouraging election results. Just Honduras, just not so reasonably ago. The Ukraine. And everybody gets Snowdenized, or did in those days. These days it's different. These days they get chased all over the world, and every phone call is monitored.
That doesn't make me sound. That doesn't make me feel too good.
So what you need is Yebonics. You need a language of your own to communicate in. You need the Mamaloshen. You need Menschlichkeit, because you are being protected and defended against Menschlichkeit by the Schaforeska, the Schickelgrubery Schaforeska. It's the chirality of Christian Christi moving the cones on the George Washington Bridge. It's all happening simultaneously with the end of the world. The end is nigh. Naysayers need not apply. And so John Fry was a mentor, a very good mentor, a man who lived by his word. I don't know what happened. I met him, and he became a minister somewhere in San Francisco of something, somewhat later. I remember meeting him some years later. I don't know where he is now, if anywhere.
Well, he's somewhere, but he may not
He's
be
somewhere.
successful.
He may be quite stably in one place now, though, because he was old even at that time, and I was young. Those were the days. He was probably my age, the age that I am now, an old man.
What were you like when you were young?
I was a Harvard graduate when I was young.
With the whole world in front of you.
There was a whole world. The world was my oyster. And for a long time, I was afraid of getting co-opted. Because in those days, we used to talk about participatory democracy, and we used to talk about selling out. But somewhat later, maybe 10 years later, I realized as I was walking toward my parents' house in the suburbs of Boston, I realized that I didn't have to worry anymore about being co-opted. No one was buying anymore. So that was some revelation. It's one thing when they're trying to corrupt you. It's another thing when they're not trying to corrupt you.
It's like when you're the only person at the dance that no one wants to dance with.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. I was able to turn victory into defeat from my life.
Nice.
Rescued myself from the jaws of selling out with my Harvard degree and becoming a CEO of some large corporation. I was fighting them off. I had to beat them off with a horseshoe.
How about now?
Now, not so much. But you never know. Because now, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking here at Hamlin, with a hospice for the homeless Buddhist artists, that I'm on to something. That this could be finally my breakthrough moment. But then again, maybe not. Maybe I'm here with you. That would sadden me. If it was just you and me, how depressing would that be? But never mind. Hope springs eternal. What's that Barack Obama slogan, hope? What is it?
Yes, we can.
No, yes we can, but there was something about hope. Hope. See that?
Hope.
You're dealing with the Alzheimeric. Dealing with the Alzheimeric. Hope. Well, never mind. Hope for the copeless.
Hope for the cloakless.
The cokeless, yes. Hope for the cokeless. And the cockless.
Yes.
And the suckers. The 99% suckers that accept the highly invasive, corrupt, corrosive, capitalist 1% master narrative official story.
It's comforting to accept that story.
It is comforting. Sometimes I sing myself to sleep with that story.
Do you ever cry yourself to sleep?
Beautiful dreamer, wake unto thee. Starlight and dewdrops are waiting for thee. Now you can probably begin to understand why my third grade teacher told me in the chorus that I should just mouth the words. That was the beginning of understanding that I wasn't going to be Liberace. Not that I wanted to be Liberace. Or Placido Domingo. Or Pavarotti. Or all the other Roddies. Or roadies. Or roadies.
You followed your own path.
Followed my own path, and it's taken me right here, right now. Isn't that depressing? Here at Hamlin, here, final resting place, Buddhist Alzheimer's artists, home for the hospiceless. You don't have to remember your name here at Hamlin.